In February of this year, I had no idea what wholesaling real estate was. Fast forward to 6 months later, I am now a full-time wholesaler. So in this video, I am breaking down my first deal that got me started into wholesaling, but I have to start by saying these 3 things. Number 1, when I started wholesaling real estate, I thought it was a scam. Number 2, the amount of money people were claiming to be making wholesaling real estate was money that I had never seen before and honestly was life-changing sums of money. And number 3, and most importantly, I had no idea what I was doing. Let's jump in, check it out. If this is your first time tuning in, what this channel is designed to be is essentially me documenting the real raw journey from knowing nothing about real estate to becoming a full-time real estate investor, and these videos are part of me showing you that process. So this is what you're tuning into. So I think the first place to start is, how did I find these deals? Well, I was driving around a neighborhood looking at a property that I was looking to invest in because I wanted to buy rental properties. And while I was in that neighborhood, I saw a ton of distressed properties. Like, everything in this neighborhood looked like it needed work, and it was definitely a rental. And at this point, I knew a tiny bit about wholesaling, enough to know that I could collect these addresses and try and somehow contact these people to see if they wanted to sell. So as you can see, I literally was just writing them down in my notes with the intent to bring it back home and somehow figure out a way to call these people. So the next step obviously now is I need to put them in a skip tracer. I needed to skip trace, AKA get these people's phone numbers so I could call them and ask them if they had any interest in selling their property. And if you remember, at this point, I'm skeptical and I don't want to spend a lot of money. I don't have a lot of money to spend to find these deals. So I go to batchskiptracing.com, which is basically you pay as you go. It's like 15 cents a lead, and I ran all these addresses. And then because I didn't actually know what to say if I got a seller on the phone, I just started manually texting every single one of these people from the phone numbers that I skip traced. Now from this list, I actually didn't get any deals, but what I recognized was when I was texting people from the skip tracing that I did, they were actually texting back, and some of them had some sort of interest. This is what propelled me to go out and find more addresses and text more people. So that's what I did. That next week I went out for maybe an hour a day and collected, I think, maybe 150 or 200 addresses and literally started manually texting every single one of those people. Lo and behold, one of these guys finally texted back and said, yes, I am looking to sell 3 properties, and they were literally within a mile of each other. All of them needed work, all of them were rentals, so we started the conversation. So this guy texts me back and I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to negotiate, I don't know what questions to ask, so I just start watching YouTube videos and I find out, go onto Zillow, find out what the value of the property is, and start offering about 50 or 60% of what Zillow is telling you the property is worth, and see what happens. So I got on the phone with him, I started asking him about, hey, new roof, new HVAC, any new renovations? He's telling me no, it's run down. Bottom line, I make him an offer around 50%, and he says, no, that's way too low. But we keep going back and forth, we keep talking, we keep texting. Finally, he texts me back, or calls me back rather, and says, hey, tell you what, I'll go ahead and take your offer. I offered him $175,000 for all 3 of these properties. Altogether, they're worth about $300,000. So now we have an agreed upon price. I learned how to use dot-loop, I send him the contracts, and if I can tell you anything, that 24 hours that I was waiting for him to sign the documents were probably the most anxious hours of my life, because I knew if these deals closed at that point, I was set to make about $30,000 in all 3 of these, which again is a completely life-changing amount of money for me. So of course he did finally sign the contracts, and then that next day I went to a mentor in town here who sells investment properties, and we sold those properties literally the next day. Now at this point in my head I'm thinking, okay, there's only one more hurdle to get through, which is inspection, because when someone inspects a property, they're probably gonna come back and ask for reductions, things of that nature, whatever. I had enough margin in this deal that I thought, this is gonna close, no problem. Well, of course, drama has to come into play. After the inspection had already been done, the reductions had been asked. I think I was walking away with like 27. It was a very minor reduction. The seller calls me and he says, hey, tell you what, I'm gonna hang on to him. I'm gonna cancel the deal. Now you can imagine what that moment felt like when I realized that $27,000 was slipping through my fingertips and I didn't think I could do anything about it. So I started doing my research, started asking for help. So for the next week, the seller and I are going back and forth. He's threatening legal action, I'm threatening legal action, I'm threatening to cloud the title. Again, I have no idea what I'm doing, but in my mind, I cannot let this deal fall through. I think what ended up happening was he got a better offer, and he wanted to back out of my offer and take a better offer. So I feel like I learned that through our conversations, through being nice. I was never mean, I never tried to bully him. I tried to understand where he was coming from. And what that led to was me offering him just a little bit more money. We were at $175,000, offered him $184,000, and he agreed to that. So then we finally were making it to close. So real quick before we move on, during that week that we were going back and forth trying to make this deal work, in my head I'm thinking, of course this is gonna happen on my first deal, not knowing that having sold several different properties, which I'm going to break down in the future. This happens on almost every deal. Something happens on almost every deal that's going to be drama that you're going to have to work through. Thankfully, I didn't give up and it worked out, but just for anyone who's wanting to wholesale real estate and you're getting into this game, something will happen. Expect something to happen. Don't panic. Don't get incredibly anxious. Just have in your mind, you are going to figure out a way to make this deal close. So we finally make it to close. I show up to the title company. I pick up this check for $19,000. And I'm sitting in my car thinking to myself, did this just really happen? I thought this was a scam. I didn't know what I was doing, but we figured it out. We made it happen with the help of some mentorship that I desperately needed. Long story short, this is the journey that got me into wholesaling real estate. At this point today, we are about 35 deals in, closing 6 more this upcoming Thursday. I'm gonna break down every single deal so that you guys can see the journey and the process to get to this point. Come along for the journey, hit like, subscribe if you want. If not, all good. We'll catch you on the next one.